Hi, Lisa, you want to come say hello?
Hello, everybody. I see my friend Sonia here. I see Carolyn, and she made it. She made the house from yesterday, and Misty, and I'm just happy you guys and Jennifer. I'm so happy to see you guys, and I just wanted to go over a few tricks and tips that I think help me make my projects with Cricut Design Space. Someone asked today if the projects would work with the silhouette, and I intend for them to, but I have to be honest, I don't have a silhouette, so I'm not exactly sure if they work. If you would let me know, I would like that. I see Sue Stewart from Anchorage, Alaska. Happy to see you here. And um, let's see. And so that was one thing. And we do want to see your name and where you're from. So I wanted to go over a few other things first. And first, I think we're going to do a little bit about, show you a little bit about the schedule page and where to go, and then how to download the files. And I see Misty says she's from rural Georgia. My aunt and uncle live in Dalton, Georgia. And when we drive there from South Carolina, we go through the mountains, right kind of in the middle of the state, or more the northeast corner. It's beautiful there. But anyway, and I went to school in Atlanta, so I know some stuff about Georgia. Okay, I'm looking at my notes if you're wondering. So we're on the schedule page, and if you click on the first project on the schedule page, it will take you to the information about the first page. So let's see if we can go down. We're at day number 1. So you can click the click to watch page, and that takes you actually to the page where you do the download. And on the click to watch page, the important thing is to scroll down so you can see the supply list and you see the download button. It says click to download the templates. And then the templates consist of one SVG file, which has like all the pieces you need in it. And then there are a lot of PDF files. I almost always include PDF files because, for one thing, I think if you see them printed, sometimes it's easier to understand how to make the file. And then, but you don't have to pay any attention to those. You can just ignore those and just look at the SVG files. I'm on a Mac, which makes downloading, I think, a little bit simpler. I've got a button in the top corner that shows me the files, and so you basically just drag it or browse once you're in your Cricut and then put the SVG file in. Okay, the next thing I wanted to tell you about this house, wait, let me see, let me grab it. This house has a ton of windows. So let me count. What are there? The vellum. I got this vellum from 12 by 12 cardstock, and it is just beautiful. Can you see how translucent it is? It's just beautiful. And they've got a lot of colors. The yellow, kind of a neon yellow, is really beautiful, but I was kind of surprised. I bought some black just to see what it was like. Oh, here's the plain, the translucent plain color. And then, but I got the black and I was kind of surprised. I mean, I can actually kind of see through it. It's a really neat color. So anyway, that's from 12 by 12 Cardstock Shop. They are one of the sponsors. but I actually bought this before they were even a sponsor because I wanted to try it out, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful product. And if you hear ba-dum in the background, that's my cats. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is that the giveaways start today, so you can click on the giveaway page. It's on that same first page, the schedule page. You can click on the giveaway page and enter the giveaways that you want, and which are really fun. And then I wanted to mention just real quickly about the VIP ticket. Uh, while there are 20 projects with the free ticket, you get each one for a whole day, but the VIP ticket's got really cool stuff. And one thing, this one's so hard to take a picture of. This is the bat fence. That's one of my VIP projects. And I've made a VIP bat fence before, but this one is just so much better, and it just works so well with a little house. So that's the bat fence, one of the bonus files in the VIP ticket. And then I made this house for a different event. I call this something like Halloween house with porch. But I saw a photo online, and that's what I based it on, like a graphic drawing of an old house. And I was just really happy with how it came out. So that is one of the VIP tickets. And I'm sorry, Alley Cat's running on my table and making it wiggle. And here's one where I actually just painted siding on cardstock. So it's just white paint on black cardstock, and that's that same house. So I just wanted to show you that. And Ruth said something about she tried to enter the giveaway, but it didn't work. We'll work on those links. So we'll see. Yeah, help at paperglitterglue.com if you have any problems. Oh, wait. Ruth, did you say you're in Europe? If you're not in the United States, the products can't be shipped out. So what I want you to do is sign up for my giveaway. I made Amazon gift card for $100, and that I did that because I want people who are not in the US to be able to sign up. And we're going to have some surprise giveaways during these lives. And my plan is to have some other Amazon gift cards again, because trying to reach people who aren't in the US. Okay, so I think those are the main things. I had to go to my list. Those are the main things I wanted to cover. And now I want to start with the Cricut, some tips and tricks for how I use my Cricut to make it easier to cut things. And then right afterwards, I'm just going to show you a few little hints if you happen to cut by hand. I know there are a few people in this event who actually cut cut their houses and their projects by hand, and I just have a few little hints that will make it easier. Okay, I just want to show you a couple of tricks I use on my Cricut that make it a little bit easier to cut things out. So I have uploaded my Spooktacular House number 1, the project we're making today, and I want to reduce it on the screen so I can kind of illustrate a couple of things. And remember, we always ungroup first, and then second, I delete my little 1-inch square for scale because I don't need it. I'm using the trash can to delete it. I'm just going to get a couple of pieces so I can show you how to just little things. You may know all this, but that might help you be a little more efficient with your Cricut. The parts that I'm not using right now, I'm going to group them and hide them. And now I can just kind of concentrate on these two. I want to cut them out of the same material, same cardstock or cardboard. And I'm hoping that they will fit on one piece of 8.5 by 11 cardboard. That's the cardboard I usually use. All right, so let's make it a little bigger. There, we can see everything easily. And let's look at this piece. This design is the option that allows you to draw, use your pen tool with your Cricut to draw the siding. But say you don't really want that. You've got the perfect paper for this house, and you're not really interested in that. So let's check that this design, I'm selecting only the drawing pieces. And one way you know that they're drawn, or rather that you know I didn't draw them as scoreline, is they're not in red. So the color box is black. So I'm going to hide these. Just click in this little eyeball icon in the layers panel, and they're poof, they're gone. And Cricut will ignore them. It won't do anything with them. Let's click these pieces. I hope you can see these little tiny lines. And when you go over to the color box, you see that it's red. And that's one of my major clues that that is a score line. Operations menu, score. And then we want to make sure that the Cricut understands that these score lines belong to this piece, not merely grouped, but they actually belong together. They're to be cut and scored together. So we click on the entire piece, it all turns green, and attach. All right, the next thing is I want to make sure that I can cut all of this out with one sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardboard. So I'm going, here's some fencing with the gates. So I'm going to ungroup that. Let's see. Okay, that's looking like that will work, that they'll fit in about the same space. But to be sure, let's we'll draw a rectangle that is the same shape as our cardboard. So I'm going to Shapes, and I'm actually just picking the square. And to make the square into a rectangle shape, I have to unlock it so that each side can be different. So I can have a different width and a different height. So I click this little lock button, I unlock it, and I want it to be 10.5 inches wide. And I do that because that is the dimension that a Cricut will cut out. It always adds like a 1/4 inch border, so I'm doing that. And then so now it's 10.5 inches wide. And then for the height, I'm going to click 8 inches in case my, Cricut does a 1/4 inch border around. So now this is my rectangle. If you want to change the color of your rectangle to make it easier to see, you can choose one of the colors in the box, in the color squares. Let's do light gray. And I'm going to arrange it using this arrange and move it to the back. And I can see that my pieces easily fit on one sheet of cardboard, even with the borders that the Cricut adds. All right, so I'm going to hide my square, clicking the little eyeball icon and hiding it. And now I just have my pieces. I don't want to have to arrange things on my mat. So I've already kind of arranged them in the Design Space canvas rather than on the mat. So I'm going to attach them. So when I go to my mat, they're already arranged the way I like. The other thing I like to do is make some duplicates, because I've learned over time that my Cricut Maker requires a few cuts, so I have to keep pushing the little button so it goes through over and over. So I'm going to make 3 additional copies of this design. 2, 3. And then I'm going to line them up, align left, align bottom, and I'm going to attach them. So my Cricut will not only cut it 4 times, but it will also do the score line 4 times, which makes for a deeper score line, which I really like. So now let's go to the green Make button. I'm not going to save it at this point because I'm just kind of showing you. And then I think my Cricut cuts better when it's a little bit away from the edge. So I'm moving it a little bit away from the edge. The other thing is that you'll see, even though I've told you I'm going to use 8.5 by 11 cardboard, I'm not changing the material size because I just always leave it like this, and I tape my cardboard in this direction. And I'll talk about taping it in a minute. So I just leave it this way, and I don't have to worry about material size because I generally use 2 different materials, either 8.5 by 11 cardboard or cardstock, or 12 by 12 cardstock. So I just have to remember that I can't go over 11 or it won't cut this part out. And
since most of my houses fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardboard or cardstock, I am pretty good at remembering that I have to keep it between the 11 and about halfway down the 8. So we've got plenty of space. Then let's hit continue. Selecting my device, I'm using my maker. Obviously, I'm on my laptop. It just, because you can tell by the screen size, it's just easier for me. And these are my common choices. And basically, these are the two I use. Light chipboard, 0.37 millimeter chipboard, and that works well with my 22-point cardboard that I generally get from Amazon. And then the other one I use is heavy cardstock. Even if my cardstock's 65-pound cardstock, I still pretty much use this one. If I have a lot of little cuts, I will use the cardstock for intricate cuts and still duplicate it just like I did, but it just cuts kind of a little more gently. But these are the two main ones I use. All right, so I'm doing cardboard for this one. I'm clicking light chipboard. Now we get to load tools and material. I always edit the tools because I really like the scoring stylus better than the scoring wheels. And the reason is I don't have to switch out the scoring wheel with the blade and back and forth. I just use the stylus and leave it in, I can't remember if it's the A or the B place on the maker, and I don't have to switch it out, and it's just so much simpler. Also, since I've done 4 copies of my design, the scoring stylus will go over it 4 times, and it's deeper. So those were the main points I wanted to make for you. One, using the background square or rectangle so you can fit your pieces on there exactly without having to adjust them, without having to move them around on the mat to make it just right. Just go ahead and do it on your canvas and attach them together so they're exactly the way you want them. I just think that's simpler. And then making extra copies so that your design will cut faster, but you do have to know how your machine works. So I know that making 4 copies works with my machine. And then finally, scoring stylus. I really think that's the way to go. All right, now I'm going to show you a little bit about cutting by hand because there are some people who make their projects by hand and make beautiful, beautiful designs. So I'm just going to kind of tell you a few hints and tricks for that. All right, let's go to the cutting board.
Okay, now I've got my little cutting mat here, and I wanted to show you some stuff. One thing, actually, let me kind of start off with this. My Cricut mats are just beat up. They're not very sticky at all. If you see, I can barely lift them up with my when I touch them, but I just use painter's tape to hold it down. And when you use a heavier material like cardboard, and this isn't very, let me see if I can show you. This is not really very thick cardboard. This is a 22-point cardboard, which is very similar to cereal box cardboard or perhaps poster board cardboard. And so it's still heavy enough that if you just tape the edges, and even if you cut out little tiny windows and stuff, it doesn't lift up. So I just tape the edges. Also, sometimes when I run it through, I notice that an edge hasn't, it's not coming, it's not fully released, but maybe one part of the house is fully released, but some borders over here are not, then I just put another little piece of tape there, just rip off a little bit of painter's tape to secure the part that is cut all the way through so that it won't lift up accidentally. So you do have to kind of watch your machine, but I like it that I don't have to push the, say this was a little house cut out and this part's good, but the corner up here is not. So I just reinforce the part that's not. So I go through a lot of painter's tape, but also, I make lots of projects. So I just wanted to show you that about the mats, because mats are expensive. You don't want to have to buy one just because they're not very sticky. Now I will say, the finer the material you use, if you use some really thin stuff, then you do have to you do need a stickier mat. Like, the more detailed it is and the finer your material, the thinner your material is, the more it needs to be adhered to the mat. But thicker stuff like cardboard, I really pretty much just tape around the edges. All right, now I wanted to show you some of my tricks. Oh wait, let me show you a couple of houses. This is one of my first houses that I actually made by hand. I cut it out by hand, and these windows are from Tim Holtz. He has a whole series of little houses, and so windows are a pain to cut out, so I used a die for that. And this is also a die, the roof shingles, and I used like one of his lace dies to make the fencing on the side. But I actually cut the house by hand, and it's pretty straightforward. And I'll show you some things I do in my patterns that make it easier to cut it out by hand. And let me show you this one. Somebody was talking about this one earlier. This house is called the Faded Mansion, and this one I did cut out with my Cricut, but the original design I did not. And that one's in my website as Abandoned Italianate Mansion. It's based on a house in Pennsylvania that's actually being renovated, but it was a pretty spooky looking house before. But I cut this one out by hand, and I even cut these little things. When I made the design at first, I cut those out by hand. And again, I used Tim Holtz windows. Now I've added windows to the pattern. You can get this pattern as SVG, but the PDF file is there. Let me show you something about the windows. I used some recycled plastic packaging, and then I put glue on it, so it looks like old wavy windows. I thought that was kind of fun. All right. Now, in terms of cutting it out, and I'm sorry it's upside down. I thought I had it set up right, but apparently not. Okay, this is a simple pattern. And it looks like it's kind of showing a little pixelated or something. But when I make it in cardboard, I usually tape down my pattern, my PDF pattern. And if you want, you can line up the edges so you don't even have to, let's just do this. So you don't have to cut out at least two of the sides. So we'll line up these two edges so I don't have to cut these two sides. And always tape it down. Now, some people actually draw over it. They use like carbon paper and draw over these the pattern, but then you have to do it twice, but you get to keep the pattern. So I'll show you now. And I use what is described as an ergonomic knife. It's much easier to hold, and then you need a metal ruler. You have to have a metal ruler. If you use a wooden ruler, you'll cut into the ruler and your lines won't be straight. So, oh, wrong. I did it wrong. You need to cut the smaller lines first, the inside. So let's score first. So I used the back of my craft knife, not the sharp one. You can tell I haven't cut out a lot of patterns. So use the back to score. And you get a really nice sharp score line when you use the back of your craft knife. You want to cut out little pieces first because you want your entire project to, it's just easier to hold if you cut the little pieces out first. So these are the score lines. And this is a very standard house for me. I think this is called the easy something. This is the simplest one. You know, you can't get any simpler than a gable front house. It's like the little house. It's like the house you make when you're in first grade. Okay, let me see. I'm not sure if I did that line. I think I did. So score first. And now I'm going to cut these lines. They're solid lines, so I know to cut them. I hope I don't bleed during this demonstration. I'm left-handed, and for me that means like seriously clumsy. I was going to show you something about the windows. So whenever you make windows, for example, on this design, these are arched windows. Just if you're cutting by hand, just make them simple. Just do squares or rectangles. All right, so the next thing about the windows is I have these dies. This is what I used to do. Sorry about that loud noise. These are leather dies for cutting out things in leather, and they come in all different shapes and stuff, so you can use them to cut your cardboard. So let me find one that's a good size for the window. This is a good size for the window, and you just kind of line it up. There is a trick to using it. You'll tear up your mat, so you need, and I'm not going to actually demonstrate it, you put a piece of wood underneath and then a piece of wood on top. You don't want to be hammering and then use a hammer. You don't want to hammer on the metal directly because it'll damage the die. So you put a piece of wood on it. These were the only pieces of wood I could find. You really want a smaller piece. Put a piece of wood on it and then you hammer. And I love these dies. And that's honestly, that's how I did it for a long time until I got my Cricut. Hey, let me lay that down. Until Jennifer Maker, it's like, you need a Cricut. Not only did she say you have to learn to make patterns, you need a Cricut. And it makes all the difference, but you don't have to do that. And one of my friends who makes beautiful houses, like really the best houses in the world, is his name is Howard, and he posts on the Cardboard Christmas Forum. And he makes a point at the corner of each window. He uses a push pin and makes a point at the corner of each window cutout. So when he's cutting with his knife, it makes a little, it kind of stops it. It makes like a little clunk. So he knows to stop right there. So that's one trick for making windows if you're cutting by hand. But the other thing is, you can see this design is basically a big rectangle. And I do that with these two pieces called roof flaps. And these are roof tabs. And let me finish cutting it out and I'll show you. What you can do. Again, just making it simpler. I still cut a few things out by hand. Sometimes I make my bases, I cut them out by hand. Like if I want to make, okay, let's see. I can move the pattern out of the way. Let me see if I can show you. The score lines are there. I think you can see. And we haven't cut all the way through, but pretty close, so I'm going to go over it again. But when I cut everything out by hand, my hands hurt at the end of the day. Again, partly because I was doing so many of them, but you know, when you get older, stuff like that can be a challenge. So many things can be a challenge when you get older. All right. Now we've cut out that pattern. And when you fold it, if you find that these things, these little pieces are in the way, cut them with scissors. You know, they're not going to show. So if you want to do things like that, simplify it and do the easy stuff with scissors. I don't think I scored that one. And that just makes it easier. So I just wanted you to know you've still got an option for making a lot of these crafts by hand, even though it's harder. But okay. All right. So now I think we can go back and I can see if you have any questions for me. So I'm going to switch to my face front camera. There you go. So if you have any questions about how to make your cutting out with Cricut or by hand easier, please let me know. And I see Sharon said something about using motors for moving parts. Oh yeah, that would be fun. I've got, let me see, I think it's here. Yes. This is like my only one with moving parts. So I use just a little brad for my windmill pattern. So yeah, but a motor would be really fun. That's, you know, that's kind of one of those tech things I have not experimented with. Okay, I think that's it for today. Several people have asked about not getting, you know, worried about not getting their emails, and so we're going to be answering those questions. And if you see anybody who's kind of got a lot of questions within the Facebook group, and I do hope you'll join the Facebook group. If you see somebody who's got lots of questions, remember help@paperglitterglue.com. Get your VIP ticket, especially if you like the batwing fence or this cool house with the porch. And you know, just if you need help, just let us know and we will help you. Okay, I think that's it for today. Alrighty, bye.